Hey, everybody. We're all right. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023 as amended on March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted in person and as a courtesy via remote means in accordance with the applicable law. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided, the meeting hearing will not be suspended or terminated if there are tech problems unless required by law. Viewers can visit the local scene.media4-Sudbury, formerly pac-tv, to watch a video replay of this meeting. Welcome. So we have a somewhat abridged agenda. We had said that we were going to be, oh, I'm sorry, Mary, what?
Does the school committee need to open?
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you all need to open?
Because they're
We
here.
posted, so, can I get a motion to call them? Well, I'm just gonna call the meeting to order.
There you go. Good job. All right.
Thank you.
So we are not going to be doing much on the warrant tonight. Rainey is going to be remotely doing it because he's in his office working on the warrant. We do need to get more feedback on when we will be able to start voting on some of those articles. I doubt it's Thursday night.
No, I would anticipate that Rainey will probably have a decent draft to be out by the end of the week.
Right. So I think
So
by
I don't think.
So we probably won't have a meeting on Thursday, but we'll have a meeting next Tuesday, if, oh, that's okay. So, Linda, would you mind canceling the meeting on Thursday and posting the one for Tuesday? But do Tuesday and Thursday, if that's the following week. Yes, please. Okay, we are waiting for, Ashley to come. She's on her way on the highway. And so that gives us an opportunity to do our minutes. Because they're kind of long minutes, so this will give us a chance to, and the school committee and the superintendent have been kind enough to put up with this nonsense. So, Fred, do you have the minutes? And Linda, you too? Okay, you got that smile on your face. There's
What
something
I'm
happening.
dealing with are the minutes of the 9th of December, which is when we voted the entire budget. So it was on for a few pages, so I've got my notes here, so try to bear with me. Linda was kind enough, I guess it's a printing issue, the way my printer does things, and the way her printer does things, which is much neater and straightforward. So I will go through these, and I've checked off the ones that I have a question on. And let's see. It'll take me a second, because I haven't.
Nope, that's great. I appreciate you doing it.
Okay, a while ago when I did this. And aren't so good. That's fine. That's fine. Yep. 6. Yep, it's fine. All right, simple nitpick, but public safety. I go back, it's on budget 210. Policy line 31. The vote is incorrect. It said 8-1, it was 7-1-0. Simple. Sorry. Get that, Linda?
Yes,
All right.
I'm gonna take your notes though, if you don't mind.
Did you say, sorry again?
May I take your notes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is gonna take 15 minutes.
No, that's fine. No worries.
We put every line, so that's why it's page after page. I'm on page 12 already. Okay, on the human services budget, Department 541 line. My note for myself here. Oh, there was some new books. I don't mean to be a pain, but I did go through all of it.
No, that's great.
It's not line 64, it's line 65. What was voted on human services, and Council on Aging was line 66, not line 55. We'll just get the miscount.
There you go.
All right.
Yep.
Back and voting. Under discussion of items held for library and recreation, you misspelled Mr. Hokinson. You call him Mr. Hokin.
He lives to
He
pretty
says
much
it's all,
anything,
he says it's
so.
all right, but
Yeah.
Hokinson. All right, I have a question concerning the Percy Walker Pool salaries. There's no vote taken. If we can't share the costs associated with the pool bother him, the don't can share the revenue with offset costs, if you can't say it, blah, 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 blah. That was the end of the debate. I have that we voted 8-0, but you do not have a vote in here. So I think we did vote. If it held, and then we came back and discussed it. So that's budget 631, Percy Walker Pool,
What number? What line number?
631.
No, line number,
Line.
Line, sorry.
74, 75.
I make second correct myself.
I have that starred on my notes. Mary, was there any question as to the on the Percy Walker Pool for the aqueducts,
I think we answered those questions.
yeah,
What,
the part-time employee that's handling the aqueducts program?
Yep,
We had that number in there. That's included in
that's
this.
included in 5A.
Okay, so that's all set. All right, great,
So I did have us voting and I had it on my chart
great.
that counts. Anybody have any thoughts either way? So we'll just add the vote of 8-0.
Right.
Yeah.
All attending voting unanimously.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Linda. 17, 18. Upside. That's it.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions on the minutes or concerns? All right.
I'd like to move the minutes of
Yeah.
December 9 as amended.
Second, we have to do roll call. Chuck,
Chuck, aye.
JR,
They are,
Friend, I.
Mark, aye.
Al? Did you already vote? Aye?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sorry. Betsy, aye.
Kathleen, I.
Okay, did I get everybody? All right. Super. All right, thank you very much. We got that done. And again, I thank you to the members from the schools for their patience and get some of our bookkeeping done. So tonight we are, at this point, other than the minutes, a single item. We just want to get through your budget, get any questions that are out there answered, with hopefully the intent that we can bring this to a conclusion and have a vote so that, Rainey has, budget A and B voted completely by finance so that when he goes to the select board, we have that taken care of because they like to see, where we've weighed in on certain things. So I think tonight would be a great opportunity for us to just ask our questions, get them answered, and if we move to a vote. Al and Ashley's not here yet. She should be here shortly, but why don't you just kind of bring us up to date? Because you're the liaison for the schools.
I
And we
I
can
think
go
what
from
I'd
there.
like to do is to start off with just a personal note, if you don't mind, because most of you don't know me. I'm a happy parent of two children that went from K through 12 in the Duxbury schools. So I am predisposed to look very favorably on your budget at all times. I'm a CPA by training and experience. And I start here because I think it's important for you to know that Ashley and I and Ted Flynn have met with, been to your meetings several times this year. And we've had the privilege of listening to you discuss and debate, et cetera. I want to make a couple of points sort of on a large scale before we dive into the numbers, because this is an opportunity for my colleagues in this committee to actually learn some of the things that we heard at the meetings, that they weren't at, that we understood by diving deeper into the budget and how it was built. And I think that's very important. I think it's very, very important tonight, especially that we have both Lisa and Danielle here because they helped put together and crafted this budget and have access much more thoroughly than I do, even though I've looked at the numbers quite carefully. But they can answer those questions, and I think context here is very important. Let me start off with this. My background is in public accounting. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers for years, and I was a specialist in government affairs. And what concerns me today is what's happening in Washington. And what happens in Washington is going to affect the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and it's going to affect the Chapter 70 funds. So let's keep that in mind. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, you all, as you are mandated by law, have done an excellent job, school committee, in putting together and voting on your budget. And that stands before us, and I respect that budget tremendously. The questioning that I've had for the superintendent and for Lisa has focused on, and I don't have copies, and I'm sorry, but on the grants and other types of federal funds that are at risk now. So when we take a look at the components of how the schools are funded, the majority of funds come from local taxes. And I will say this, you have been very sensitive to that issue. You've gone through the budget process before, the override vote, et cetera. So you know what's at stake. I think you've also done an outstanding job of focusing on the vulnerability for these federal and state grants. We had detailed discussions in December on this with Danielle and Lisa. And I think that what I saw, just my own personal observation, is that they don't have a definitive answer to the questions that I raised, nor could they, because they don't know what some of these outcomes will be. So what does that mean? What that means is it brings, I think, a path forward where you have to be realistic and cautious at the same time. That's a very tough way to go. It's tough to proceed knowing what your kids need, what the teachers need, what the buildings need, et cetera, and at the same time be cognizant of these revenue situations. Let me kind of wrap up this by saying the finance committee has the numbers. I think what's important right now is to have the story and the context. And when you feel it's appropriate, Betsy, I'd love to have Lisa and Danielle, especially to other members of the committee. I was kind of stretching it out, actually.
We've only got enough to where we went to high school. You can now go to college.
Ashley's here.
Yeah. That was good, that was good. We were gonna show pictures of like his wedding.
It wasn't that. I apologize.
Well, I'm
I'm sorry.
saying, you know that.
But continue.
But seriously, though, I think if, I did not bring the 125 pages with me. I put that in my computer and I decided I'll go light today. I've only come with this thing, which is sort of the summary thing and that's only about 50 to 75 pages. I thought it would be really healthy to do that. Danielle, if you don't mind, you put a lot of work into this. You answered a lot of questions for us at our meetings and,
Yeah, thank you. I think you stated it very well. I don't think I need to go back to my childhood. But, I think that, I did not, I wish I had. I think my parents had made a much better choice when they were house hunting. I think that we have felt the impact of the budget reductions that were the result of the override not passing last year. And I think we needed to go through a few months in the fall to really feel what those impacts are. And so I think what we did when we were developing this budget is looking to see where the greatest impact was, knowing that the town and the schools were not going to be in a position to be asking to replace 18 positions that we lost last year. Granted, some of those positions that we lost were due to student enrollment declining, especially at the high school. Our last few large classes have graduated out. So with that said, we have steady enrollment. So when you hear that the enrollment is declining, it's not declining any longer. We were declining for a number of years. We are now at a very steady enrollment of around 200 students per class, but we have a couple of classes that are 230, and we have a couple of classes that are at 190, so it's slightly less.
At the top or the bottom?
190 students total. They're mixed all over.
They're all over.
Yeah, so currently at the high school, it's pretty steady. So our class size at the middle and high school is has leveled out. We went through 4 years at the middle school where we were really packed in with the middle school classes. And so our class size is we aren't declining any longer. And when we look at our the different organizations that do enrollment projections, they are projecting for the schools that we will be steady, if not increasing slightly over the next 20 to 30 years. And so part of the Alden School Building project that we're in the middle of seeking funding for a feasibility study that's separate from this conversation, but they also did an enrollment study, and they were even more optimistic in terms of our increased enrollment than what other, we use NASDAQ as another enrollment projection company. And so I think we are pretty steady where we won't be seeing large numbers of students leaving our classes the way we had in the past few years. With that said, we have felt the biggest impact has been with the consolidation of the classes at the middle and high school, and that the students are no longer able to make their schedules as easily as they had been in the past, given their path that they take with the foreign language they choose and whether they play in the band or the orchestra. So that was an adjustment this year. So we're trying to make sure that we are still offering a comprehensive school program for the students, but the students are having to take second and third choice of classes. We've felt a huge impact this year with the loss of Cheryl Lewis, who had worked in the district for a long time. Many of you knew her. She was our director of instructional technology. And with AI, which is something that we are really concerned about and excited about at the same time in schools, we're excited about opportunities to have time savings and to be able to have more information at our fingertips. But we're also needing to make sure we're protecting students and still teaching students fundamental skills. All of that, it's a huge job. And so Beth has had to pick up a lot of the instructional technology role this year.
Yeah, Dan, just a question about, and maybe you may not have the answer to this.
Yeah.
Is it okay to go on into questions? Or okay, great.
Is there a town, either town or school AI policy yet, or is there anything in development?
We have a school AI committee. We have, we're working on some policy. The AI committee is going to be doing some policy development. We had several administrators, including Beth, take a course this summer that focuses on AI policy development. Do you want to speak about that?
Sure, we have worked on putting language in the handbook that is related to more related generally to plagiarism and ensuring that students are aware of needing to use what they use for assignments. But what we're working on right now really is guidelines and expectations for students, for faculty, for our community of how we use AI. And it's really those guidelines that we're focusing on. We also have some policy that we're working on as well. But with the way that AI changes so quickly, we really want to make sure that we are being flexible and we are responding to that. The goal is to provide training on an entire level to our administrators in this spring, and then work to continue to provide the training to our staff next year. We do have professional development that's happening this year, but it's optional for teachers to opt into. So there's a beginning and a AI training for teachers who have been using it. So we're trying to work in a couple of different lanes, I would say, as we move forward, because we're trying to make sure that we are staying with the developments, but also responding in a systematic way for the whole system.
There's a lot with the AI. And so with that said, when we developed the budget, our priorities were the greatest impact to students. We really feel strongly that our elementary class size needs to be a focus. And so we were looking to, with the superintendent's recommended budget that the school committee ultimately voted to support, was to go back to add 2 additional elementary classroom teachers that had been cut during the override failure. We also would like to have a math specialist be able to assist our students at the middle school with their math skills. And much of the positions that we had in that recommended budget were pieces of FTEs that would allow for additional sections of courses to be added to our high school and middle school students' schedule. And we would also like to once and for all end the full day kindergarten, universal free full day kindergarten conversation with this opportunity to have this be fully funded within our operating budget without having to sacrifice a large number of teachers and staff members that we would have had to in previous fiscal years if we were to have absorbed the cost of that. We feel strongly that full day kindergarten is what needs to be in place for students in this current time where their kids are really expected to be reading by the end of kindergarten, and if not reading, to at least have had a full day exposure to the schedule of school and strong phonics base so that they're heading into first grade ready to roll. And so that's one thing that I know has been discussed ad nauseum in Duxbury for many years since full day kindergarten came to be. I know that that had been a priority to try to have that funded within the operating budget. And so that's probably our largest item on our requested list in our budget this year that will hopefully become the 5B budget. With this, we won't be fully restored to where we were previously. Last year, we were really fully staffed, but we know the town is in a really challenging situation and we're part of the town. And so we're trying to make sure that we're optimizing anywhere we can. And we have people that are doing multiple jobs right now. We lost 4.5 curriculum. We lost 4.5 administrators. So we don't have individual content area curriculum supervisors any longer. So we went from having a math curriculum supervisor at the secondary level to having a STEM. So now we have an individual that is doing science and math and computer science, doing multiple departments. We don't have English and social studies curriculum supervisors any longer. We have a humanities curriculum supervisor. We don't have 2 elementary curriculum supervisors anymore. We have 1 elementary curriculum supervisor who splits her time between Alden and Chandler School.
No, they do not teach classes.
They don't teach classes. And so we've been asking more of our reading specialists, our special subjects teachers to really kind of pick up the slack when there's not always going to be an administrative person in the building that's supporting curriculum. And so everyone has stepped up to a great extent. And so we think that with this budget that we presented to school committee, that we will be able to sustain where we are. And it would be really beneficial to the students to have a couple of years of not having to go through this roller coaster of funding and wondering what our services will be. So if there was anything in particular that remains a question, or if there's any other questions you may have about the impact to the losses we had last year, we're happy to speak to them. But I know you've been to many of our presentations and discussions over the past months, and so I don't want to repeat myself because I feel like you have a good expertise in the school budget at this point.
So, Chair, full day kindergarten, not mandated. It's coming, but it's not mandated. If we don't pay for it this year, how do we get it next year? In other words, we're kicking this.
It would be tuition, correct? I think that's what he's asking.
Yeah, so if it's not funded through the 5B budget, we would continue to charge tuition for it. And if we ever were to eliminate charging tuition, we would have to reduce a significant number of staff members, $450,000 worth of staff members.
I don't think you should do that.
Yeah, that's our only choice.
The parents pay, or you pay for it.
Yeah.
But, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to speak to the two handouts. These are from the budget book. And for Chuck on the line, it's pages 87 and 99. I think 99 got me comfortable with, I think it's what I thought 47 originally was, like the revenue numbers. But I think, so there's a lot of talk about $1 million swings.
Yep.
And different things. I think this shows the FY26 offsets, we'll call like offsets and revenue offsets interchangeably. So 3.5 million, FY 27, it's 3.1, so really not millions of dollars are being planned to change from an offset perspective. And almost all of that, right, is the kindergarten revolving, but this, I think this gives you your revenue changes. If anybody on the committee wants to dig into, or like get that breakdown of what money, what offsetting money, what money coming in is changing year over year. And then 87 lays out the 4.83% overall increase. It ties nicely to the summary file that was put together. That lays out like item by item. For the increase, the recommended budget, so page 6 of that public hearing summary. But I also think this is an area where folks wanted to dive in and ask any questions about, you can see there's a column for the differences and the percent difference. We can do that, but this gives us our all-in expense view. And then the other one is the revenue number. But this helped me understand that I don't think there's swings of millions of dollars year over year, at least from the offsets.
I think too that it might be beneficial. We have a language problem. Offsets are not revenue. But although some of these things have been labeled and misunderstood and whatever, it doesn't matter. That we look at, Mary will deliver to us revenue that is expected from various fees, from various sources. And that is all very clearly spelled out that this is the revenue that we expect. And then we get our expenses and our salaries, and that's what we have to put out. I believe, and I don't want to speak for you, but I believe that the way the presentation has been coming from the schools, offsets is what they expect to have to use from whatever revenue sources they receive. So if they had I'm making up numbers, if they had a grant for 100,000 and but they only were going to have to use 80,000 of that grant, which is a bad example, but whatever. Then 80 is the number that they would carry in their report, not the 100. So it kind of threw things off because we weren't using the same terms. Hopefully in the future, we can standardize what we're talking about, whether it's whoever changes, I don't care, as long as we're all labeling it the same way. And that will eliminate, I think, some of the confusion.
I think in a lot of cases, it's the opposite of the example you just gave, and that we'll use a portion, say it's $1 million, the total cost, and we'll use a portion of grant funding to use offsetting that amount.
Yeah.
And then the remainder of that will come out of the operating budget. And so you have different funding sources, and we're using offsets to bring down the cost. And so our total budget is greater than what the town sees, and because we do receive funding from different sources.
Right, but I think that, and you do it however you want to do it, obviously, but standardizing it, this is all of our revenue equals X, this is all of our expenses and salaries equals Y, and then you can just compare, it simplifies it. And maybe that doesn't work for you. So
I think what we'd be hoping to do moving forward is we have to do our state reporting one way for school department reporting. And I think what we'd like to do is try to make our communication with the town is similar. It can't be apples to apples to how Mary presents the town budget, but if we can do the best we can to make them comparable so that they're not completely different and they're more easily understood, we can certainly do it in different ways. But I don't think we can't change the way we have to do it due to the way that the state requires us to.
Well, candidly, I was with Lisa about this earlier. The workbook really was the first time that was presented right in this way.
Mhm.
So we're gonna learn a lot, right? We're gonna learn a lot about, what like as Betsy just pointed out, are we talking about the same thing, right? And if we're not, let's get back on the same page, right? So I think it would be really important for us all to come back together after we finish our March, gig, right? To take a look at how we can fine tune and improve it for out years.
Absolutely.
So I think that that's helpful, and we'll take away a lot of this, like, where's all this, is there money sloshing around, or what? We know there is not, but we don't know where to look to find where the dollars are going. So,
Right, and we want to be able to provide the context around each page so that if
Exactly.
you're just looking at page 87, you can understand it without having read 1 through 86.
Yeah.
So I think that,
and I very rarely, get out the old,
right,
the green, I always use green.
green highlighter. You're in Duxbury.
But by now, you come fully equipped. But yeah, I think that might be a helpful suggestion going forward, so we just get better.
Mary, you had something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to expand a little bit. Lisa and I have had numerous conversations about a lot of the charts that you guys have raised some questions about. In terms of sort of the transition between how we present the town budget versus how we present the school budget, this term offset is I think throwing people for a loop. A lot of head shaking here. So if we can equate it to the town budget, what an offset in the school department budget represents is two things. It represents not only revenues, like we talk about on the town side, so revenues that we anticipate receiving during the fiscal year that we are building that budget for. So anticipated revenues to be coming into the school department in FY27, but it also includes existing funds that we may have received in prior years that are not new money, but it's available fund balance. So
In a revolving fund or in something like?
in what are called special revenue funds,
Okay.
which include revolving funds.
Okay.
Yep. So if there's any proceeds left over from a previous year, then that's available fund balance. And so the way the school department uses the term offset, it encompasses both new revenues and existing fund balance on hand. So when you look at the town's budget, you can see our new revenues that we generate are the tax levy, state aid, local receipts. Those are all new revenues that we anticipate coming into the community during that fiscal year. But there's also a section in our budget that's called other available funds, which is monies that we have on hand that we are using to support the budget. And those monies have come in either the previous year or over the course of several years. So for example, when the town approved the middle school, high school campus, and we had a debt issuance, at the time, because of the size of the debt issuance, the town received a very, very large premium on that debt issuance. The law requires that we use a piece of that premium. So at the time we took in, don't quote me on the exact amount, but it was a couple $1 million in a premium. And so we received it back in 2014. Every year we use a piece of that money that's sitting in the bank and we use it to support the debt service on that project. So that's other available funds. It's not new revenue, but those two things together are what the school committee calls an offset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think the piece that I'm missing, and maybe it's somewhere in the larger book, but to Beth's point, what's the gross amount that you expect to get in for all of these things on 99? Because there are decisions that's being made about how much of that gross number we're gonna use and apply to offset. So, because every dollar that you don't apply, then you're asking for it to come out of the town budget, right? If that makes sense, like how much are we total gonna get in and how much are we using? This, I think, is just showing us this is what we plan to use, but I don't understand, or I don't know what that represents in terms of for Magic Dragon. Are we gonna get in 50 and we're only gonna use 44 of it, or do we use every dollar that we get in?
Well, Magic Dragon is its own, everything has an explanation.
Okay.
So Magic Dragon is
Yeah.
funded, it's its own entity and it's self-funded.
Okay,
And so they always have to come in within their budget because there's no operating budget funds that are used to run Magic Dragon. And a lot of people in town think Magic Dragon is our preschool program. And it's not. It's as though we have a preschool program running in our school department, but it's open to anyone even outside the Duxbury community. We have an integrated preschool that we run through the school department budget, and that is where we have the kindergarten, the preschool revolving account. So Magic Dragon is separate. And so Mary, I thank you for that. I think you did a really nice job just explaining where some of the funding sources are. We always estimate using, looking back 5 or sometimes you might even look back longer. So Lisa does a study of looking back to see what our spending has been, and we do the best we can to predict what we're budgeting in these different circumstances. And so if we come in under budget, a lot of times it's a revolving account, so that will carry. And if we come in over budget, we can kind of see that coming and we can plan accordingly if it looks as though our spending is more so than what we would have anticipated. But for a lot of these, that doesn't usually happen.
Yeah, so this chart, if we're gonna
99.
go down on page 99, down the road a little bit. If you look at the 4th row from the bottom, for example, just to try to answer Ashley's question a little bit more deeper, PEG access funds. So we know that the town receives monies from Verizon and Comcast for the services that they provide here. So we get what's called a franchise fee. The town sends part of that over to pac-tv. There's a formula that we go through and we cut a check and pay pac-tv. That becomes part of pac-tv's operating budget in order to provide education and government access channel programming to the community. But then there's a small piece of it that the town retains, and it's to be utilized for government programming and educational access programming. So a few years ago, the town, every couple of years, the town has a warrant article and we allocate those PEG access funds either to the town for a purpose or to the school for a purpose. And so I can't remember the amount of the article. I'm just for argument's sake going to call it $100,000. So maybe 3 years ago, on the town meeting warrant, we appropriated $100,000 of PEG access funds to the school. Every week when they have a school committee meeting and they have somebody there who's operating the booth, they are using a piece of that funding in order to pay for those services. So this line right here, where the school department has $12,822 in FY26 and $13,000 in FY27, that's them utilizing a piece of that money that we've previously set aside for this purpose. So there's available fund balance still sitting there, and they're using a piece of it every year.
Okay, that's helpful. Betsy, I think Chuck has been trying to jump in
Oh,
a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. So we've talked a little bit about the kindergarten, which is one of the things that bothers me or concerns me the most. That a few weeks ago, when we had a meeting, it was explained to us that the school committee comes up with one budget, and then this town manager creates a balanced budget, and then the rest kind of goes over into what we consider the 5B budget. I'm not sure where the full-time kindergarten came into that, whether it be with the town manager or that was where it actually came. But my feeling on this is that the kindergarten should be a principal. If we believe in it, then it should be the same as having, a junior or senior in high school. That's saying, okay, well, the junior and senior in high school, let's start charging them, versus these guys should either be in or out. And I think they should be in. The fact that, we make a comment that, well, we're not going to let them in. We're not going to have this kindergarten if it's going to mean we're going to give up, 8 other teachers or something. It kind of bothers me that we're in that position that we have to make a determination that, okay, well, these kids will be forgotten while we take care of, our juniors and seniors. They should be in. And it should be kind of fundamental, and we work around it. It should not be an option, in my concern. So if someone could just explain that to me, where that came from, whether it be, a optional or it be mandatory.
Well, I'll do the best I can to explain how we got to where we are today. And so I think we have, since I've been in the district, since 2018, there hasn't been a fiscal year where there's the opportunity to stop charging parents tuition until we leveled out that revolving fund a few years back. And so each year, I believe it's been the will of the school committee as well as the finance committee. I don't think there's been a year where you haven't wanted full day kindergarten to be funded through the operating budget. The only way we would have been able to stop charging tuition, and we talked about doing it gradually, we talked about doing it all at once. The only opportunity we really had to do that was last year when we were able to present that real needs in air quotes budget, because at that time, we wouldn't have also needed to lose a number of staff members to be able to implement that full day kindergarten. Full day kindergarten started back in, I would say, in a lot of communities around 2005, 2006, I think it was 2012, Duxbury was able to add that. And at the time, there were grants that were available from the state to incentivize districts to add full day kindergarten programs, because essentially you were doubling the number of teachers required, because if you had one teacher teaching two groups of kindergartners, AM and PM, they would have been able to have 40-something children one day cycling through their classes. And so full day kindergarten caused there to be a doubling of kindergarten teachers, as well as adding, they have to have specials, and they have to have lunch, and they have access to different services in the school that they wouldn't have necessarily needed in the past. So there is a considerable cost increase when you went from half day K to full day K, most of it with staffing. And as I said, there wasn't an opportunity in those years in between in Duxbury where it was flush with cash, and it was just the right time to say, you know what, we're gonna give the school department this extra funding to be able to absorb that cost. I think it's been conservative, tight fiscal times for a long time. I think there's a lot of needs, both capital and operationally, that the town has been facing even before I came to Duxbury. So I think through good intentions, it was just never the right time. And I think last year with the override, it was an opportunity to do so. That didn't end up coming to be. And so last year, the school committee made a decision to go back to charging tuition, because we were already facing the number of staff members would have gone. We ended up losing around 18 positions that we either didn't fill, or we had people receive pay slips. It would have been 24 positions if we hadn't charged tuition again. So that was where that decision, and our class size would have risen even more. So that was the decision, and I'm hoping that this year is the opportunity to finally end that conversation once and for all. I think that is really the biggest ask that we're putting forward in our.
Is that in 5B now, or is it in 5A?
It's in 5B.
5B.
They only have one budget.
Oh, they have one budget, but there's an override budget.
Yes, for us, it's B.
For us, it's B. That was my question. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't agree with that, but I
Mark?
Mike, do you have something you want to ask?
Good evening, how are you?
Good to see you.
One piece I'm trying to understand here, and maybe a little color would help with the sped circuit breaker reimbursement. I'm looking at it, pages 87 and 99, and also taking into consideration 32 of the budget book. I'm just trying to understand how you arrive at the amount that you consider as revenue. There seems to be some discretion as to how much you can carry over to the next year. And that amount jumped from 24 to 25 by almost $400,000. And I'm just trying to understand what decisions are being made to keep that fund balance increasing. If there's like actuarial work that's done to kind of guess what you might need that balance for an unexpected expense.
I can answer that. So a couple things with circuit breaker. Circuit breaker, we operate a year in arrears. So the funds that are received in FY 25 are expended in FY 26. So when we're building our budget, we're doing it based on known information at the time. there is a timing aspect of when the final Q4 payment comes in and when the town books it. So we definitely, and I'm not 100% sure exactly what page you're looking at, but we definitely run into
31
situations.
and 32, yeah.
Yep. So. Hopefully, let me go to.
You want my, what the end?
I'm just doing. So. In FY 25, let me see. The receipts are reflective of the Q4 payment from FY 24 that came in.
Mhm.
So these are based on when the funds were actually received.
He's, I don't mean, he's not in his face, he's not understanding.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
There may be some folks in the room who are new to the circuit breaker program.
Yep.
So it might be beneficial to sort of take a step back and explain the portion of the expenses that the town is obligated to incur. And then the excess over the threshold is what is,
Yep.
I'll let you explain the program.
So the
And then that
circuit
way
breaker
people know
program,
why it varies.
sorry, Mary. The circuit breaker program is a reimbursement from the state for eligible special education costs, which are generally tuition, transportation, and some services.
So when you say that, that is students that are out of district and out of district placements in the transportation they require. Those are really specific. And so when you talk about their tuition, it was $100,000 a year. The state provides a threshold of 40,000. I'm just making these numbers up. And the reimbursement would be 60,000, and that's how we get that number each year.
Yeah, and so the percentage of reimbursement the last few years has been on the tuition side, 75% of eligible costs. So it's not the 100%, like it's not the amount, the 100% of the amount over the threshold, it's 75% of whatever that amount is. In the last couple of years, they've also started to reimburse for out of district transportation as well, following a similar formula, although the reimbursement percentage is quite a bit smaller. So when the state makes the payment for the transportation portion, they're doing it in the final quarter as well, along with their the reimbursement that's planned for the year. So they pay out over 4 quarters of a year. And then for us, we receive those funds in, and we are operating based on what the state has identified as the school department's reimbursement for the year. So what they have said for FY 25, for lack of a better description right now, is $1 million. So we receive in over the 4 quarters, $1 million in FY 25. But when we do our budget for FY 26, those dollars are used, that exact amount is used to do as the offset, like we were talking earlier, it's an offset. And so we will offset tuition or transportation expense lines to the circuit breaker account.
So let me just ask this kind of simply. So you arrive at a number of 1,253,856 as an offset. Where does that number come from? And where are the numbers in here, in the budget?
Yeah, so that number should be based on if you back out the final quarter payment that was received in 25 from FY 24.
So actual funds received is where that number comes from.
Yes.
So it's not a projection, it's a known amount based on previous year's activity.
Yes.
Right,
So-
and I'm just trying to find that known amount in the budget book, because I see a number of 1396,749 in 2025, and remaining a carryover of 1,001,292,294, and I just don't know how you arrived at 1,253,856, and secondarily, if you arrive at that number, how much will be carried over into the carryover balance that sits in the revolving fund?
So you can only carry forward the amount that you receive in the year. So, and it's the amount, not your receipt, the timing of when it hits the bank, which is what this shows. It's
Yeah.
the amount is the actual reimbursement amount that the state identifies for the year. So the FY 25 amount has to be spent in full in FY twenty-six. You can spend, let me get into that, but the FY twenty-five amount has to be spent by the end of FY twenty-six. The FY twenty-six has to be expended by the end of FY twenty-seven.
So you're estimating that the 26 is going to be 125.
Uncertain amount for FY twenty-six, they spend the money from FY 25 first,
Yep.
and the rest of those monies aren't necessarily allocated unless they're needed.
So
They're not child specific.
they are not child specific, no. They
That was what I
are,
was
they are reimbursed based on specific children and their services received and the costs associated to them, but they are not, we don't expend them child
They're used to
specific.
pay only a portion of what we spend
Right.
for out of district tuition and transportation.
I'm sorry, Mike, I don't know if I helped or hurt there.
No, I'm just curious how much is going to be. I just it's a big piece of the revenue portion here, and I'm just curious how you are not just like your methodology, but where the numbers are to arrive at that number. Was it a guess, an estimate based on something from the state, or is it? And what will be left over in the account? I mean, is that an appropriate amount, or is it too much? Could you use some of it as a greater offset?
So-
Are we stockpiling too much money in our sped revolving fund? Is really what I'm getting at.
I think it's two different things. So if we're focused only on circuit breaker.
Yeah.
You have to spend the total amount that you receive in a year, whatever that amount is,
Correct.
by the following year. For us, for budgeting purposes, best practice is that we're utilizing that amount that we receive when we're developing the budget for the following year. So no matter what, you're always spending whatever you receive by the end of the year.
There would never be,
By the end of the next
there would
year.
never be leftover circuit breaker that you wouldn't be able to allocate to out of district tuition or transportation.
Right.
And circuit breaker is one area of state funding that superintendents, business administrators, teachers have been fighting for increases because the percentage was dwindling away of what the reimbursement rate was and what the threshold, they were making the threshold higher and the reimbursement rate lower for a long time. And so I think in the past few years, we actually have seen legislators listening to the towns and the schools saying we need additional funding because the special education costs have skyrocketed to the point where it was really challenging for districts to be able to function and be able to support students with the services they required. So they really have listened to us. And so we haven't heard any echoes that the circuit breaker won't continue to be funded as high as it has been. And I think we start to hear that soon in January as we go through the budget process with the state, and we share that with school committee along the way, saying that it looks as though circuit breaker will be funded in a strong manner again this year, and that was certainly the case. So that's known funding, and that's not projections based on past years.
Okay.
And that fund is not vulnerable to
Federal.
yes.
I will say it's not vulnerable to federal, but when the state, sorry, I don't mean to jump
go
ahead. The governor's going to release her budget at the end of January, right? And then we walk through a 7-month process of the legislature taking up action on the budget. And we talk about state aid quite a bit and what impacts we are anticipating for general state aid. But there's also another big component of the state's budget that we also keep an eye on, which is circuit breaker. And we don't here at FinCom talk about that a lot because it applies to the school department budget, but it is absolutely susceptible to changes in the state budget. And so we pay close attention to how much funding they are allocating to not only general state aid, but also circuit breaker reimbursement. Transportation is a big thing. This is not a regional school district, but for communities that are in a regional school district, when transportation was mandated, it was supposed to be 100% reimbursed. It has never been 100% reimbursed in the state budget, so it's an unfunded mandate. And the state in the last couple of years has increased the reimbursement rate on regional transportation. So we look at a lot of different things that come out of the state budget in terms of where they're allocating funding.
But to answer your question, Kathleen, every year, it's always at risk.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just make one more comment?
Sure, you go ahead.
So I did find that 87 was particularly helpful or the chart on 87 and the chart on 99 was pretty helpful in understanding the impacts in fiscal year 27, particularly if we're talking about a 5B versus a 5A. Is there a way for folks to understand similarly that we receive on the town side, what that impact would be in FY 28 as well? I know there's a lot of moving parts in the school system, but just to understand the ramifications of not funding this, if someone were to ask me like, well, what happens if we don't fund this another year? Well, this is the compounding effect in fiscal year 28. Because I'm particularly concerned about that with respect to how the free kindergarten would impact that as well. Just what fiscal year 28 would look like if that extra 1.83% isn't funded. It would be helpful for me to explain that to folks. Because I do think 87 and 99 probably should have been exhibit number 1. Just to explain to people on a macro level what the schools are asking for.
So it's to predict what the next fiscal year would be after this year if we were not to receive funding. We can't state it more simply that there will be a continued deterioration of the quality of our school district. And I think that we were really clear in FY 25 that we felt as though we had our strong class size, we had a strong system of support, we had enough course selection and sections available for our secondary students to be able to select the courses that they were interested in. And I think what we've seen this year is just a deterioration of the high quality school district that our families and our community have come to expect and that we really want to provide. And we know what we need, we know the components, and with limitations, you just slowly chip away at what is best practice in our schools. And we know what those are. It's the individual attention the teachers can pay to their students. It's intervention opportunities. It's not overburdening specialists and special education staff with humongous caseloads that they can't pay the attention that they need to all of the aspects of their job. It's having administrative and operational support, and it's not overburdening our parents with fees to be able to provide one grade of our school level. And Chuck, I couldn't agree with you more. It's to say we were going to charge grade 10 students for tuition is ridiculous, yet we've been charging families for kindergarten as a public school district for a long time, not through any choice of educators or our town committees. And so it's hard for us to see as educators in the district to see the quality of the education deteriorate. And you have people that are dedicated to the kids and they will continue to go above and beyond. And no one will tell you that the quality of education is deteriorating, but you can see it on people's faces when they're doing more than one full-time job and it's not sustainable. And I think that you'll start to see it with response time and with our ability to meet each student's needs. We've done a really good job of not over-identifying students with special education needs because we can provide a strong level of intervention and support. And I think we have been able to really improve our special education services so that we can have team meetings where families with the team can make decisions about what is in the best interest of the students and what they need. And so I think that I think we'll be looking at increased fees, and I think the school committee can probably add on to this response. But if the override doesn't pass and we have to look at other ways to supplement the budget, we aren't going to be in a position where we are lessening fees, we'll be increasing them. And I think that we won't be able to offer the comprehensive program that we have been able to offer in the past that makes Duxbury Schools what it is. But I don't know if any of you would like to comment on the impact if the override doesn't pass this year and if we're in another position of deficit in FY 28.
You know, I think what I've seen on the committee is something that is. That, I mean, Mike, you're a parent. I think you could probably speak to it yourself. This isn't about 1 year's cuts or 2 years cuts or 3 years cuts. This is about living in a state of sort of survival mode and level service for a decade. With barely enough increase to keep up with the cost of the services we have to provide, transportation, food services, you know, all these utilities, things that we don't really have any control over. The bills are the bills. But if we continue to operate with minimal increases year over year, those have to happen. So what do we start losing? We start losing salaries for staff. We start cutting programming. We start, and Betsy, you said this, you start to cut into the bone. We're there. We've cut into the bone. We've taken away instructional staff and things that I would like to see with the kids that I have in the buildings at the ages they are. We should be looking to expand our educational programming so that these kids are ready to operate in a world that is very different than the one we're living in, even right now. We can't even think about that as a committee. We have to think about, are we going to be able to fund our teacher's contract that we're currently negotiating? And so it's not, the challenge is it's not even just about what the ads are on paper, but the cuts that have transpired, and they're not cuts, we've gotten small increases, but they can't keep up with the cost of doing business. And Mary says this about the town, it's the same. We have a revenue problem. And there's no other way to solve that than to increase revenue. We can sit down and we could all sit here and pick apart this person, that staff member, this little thing, we'll take a little over here. And we've been doing that for my entire time on the committee to try and just keep our lips above water. And the only people that suffer in those scenarios are the students. And the challenge is, to Mike's question, you want to see, what are the results of that? What's going to happen? We don't see those this year, next year. It takes a long time. So what happens is our second graders, we chip away, we chip away, we chip away. And by the time they get to middle school, they're not as prepared as they should be. And it's really hard. I think part of our challenge, and something we're going to be working on in the next couple of weeks, is to talk about that. How do you illustrate that for the community? And I think there's a lot of parents that can probably speak to it in their own experience living through the district as this happens. But it's a hard question to answer. And I hope, you know, that we do a really good job as a committee of articulating what that answer really is for the community, because it's a hard one to answer, but we're going to have to find a way to help the community understand.
And I apologize, and this is, you know, I think these are really, really important points. What I was asking is that the graph on 87 be broken out another year, if you could. But if you can't, and I understand it's a lot harder than the way the town's budget's done. It would be a good, someone asked me in like 30 seconds, I could say, here's the cliff, like the numbers. Because I can see that, you know, we knew that in September for the town end, just what it's looking like from, you know, if you were to just continue down the path that we're going. And that's all I was asking. But all the other points you made, 100% valid. Certainly live it here as a parent, and hope for the best schools that we can have for our children. So I understand and hope we can achieve these positive results. I just from a straight numbers perspective, would like to just see what the next year would look like, so I can explain to people too. You know, if we keep going down this path, this is how it's going to keep cutting into that budget, and then explain all those other things that you were just stated.
Yep,
My emotional answer wasn't what you're looking for.
No, it was good.
No, it's,
Mark?
and I'm gonna hopefully build on it a little bit. So I think it's important to keep in mind the fiscal 27 deficit isn't just a fiscal 27 issue.
Would you speak up just a little? I'm
The
sorry.
fiscal 27 deficit isn't a 27 issue. It builds in 28 and 29 and 30. And we know the schools have taken a brunt of the hit. So when you guys are thinking about your 5B budget, how do you weigh the $450,000 in cost it takes to bring back full day kindergarten versus repairing some of the damage that's been done in the past few years?
Well, I think that this is really the first year we've had a substantial cut that we're in, the current year that we're in. And so I'm not sure if I understand your question. So how do we make a
So you
decision about?
You highlight last year when you arrived, Phil, you lost 18 positions.
Mm-hmm.
Some were planned, some were pink slips. So when you think about planning your fiscal 27B request, 450,000 of the request is for full day kindergarten. But we're still talking about the damage that's been done by losing positions in the past 12 months. So how do you weigh adding $450,000 for kindergarten versus bringing back some of the services and teachers and support that you lost?
I think that's a great question. And I think we had to look at every position or FTE that was reduced or eliminated and had to say what has the greatest impact on students and what can we continue to function or compensate for? And with that, that's where we developed the budget where we were asking to restore, is it 4.8? 4.4 positions total. Those are, we determined are the most essential. I'm sure if you asked different staff members, they would probably say, well, we could use 8 more positions, but we tried to be as fiscally prudent as possible when we were going through this exercise. And I think that what we are just adjusting to is that new reality of the students are not going to be in a position where they have the course selection process that they had in the past. That luxury will not be possible moving forward. And we're going to just be a lot tighter in our scheduling. However, what we're trying to preserve is the class size that we are currently at, if not smaller, because I think we're all in agreement. And although I've said this several times, we are not out of compliance with our class size, but we are over what our own personal recommendations are for ideal class size. We try to, as much as possible, be around 20 students per class. I'm well aware of what the contract says in terms of the upper limit of what class size would be. But I think that when you start having 23, 24, 25 students in a classroom, that quality of the education and the instruction that the teachers can provide is compromised. So we've tried to preserve the class size and prioritize that with adding back 2 classroom teachers. We're trying to continue to prioritize intervention, which is really important. So that's where that middle school math specialist comes in. And then when we spoke to Ms. Cotton Herman and Ms. McGuire, we asked for those small fractions of restoration in terms of the STEM position at the middle school. And I believe a little bit more flexibility with world language would allow us to bring back the Rosetta Stone program in grade 9, as well as an additional option for students that are entering a language in grade 9. So those were the pain points that were most prioritized from this year. We really feel strongly that full day kindergarten should not be a conversation we should be having, especially in our district, because this has been a priority for so long. We have very high interest in full day kindergarten and we believe in that model. And so I think that that is one of our top priorities to recommend to the community that we absorb that and that become part of our pre-K to 12 education system, that we are not asking families to fund any portion of kindergarten. Beth, did you want to add something?
Can I add, we are so fortunate that we were just notified that the Duxbury High School has earned platinum recognition for AP School Honor Roll. And you may wonder why I bring that up. And I bring that up because it started in kindergarten. And that's when it starts. That is the foundation, kindergarten.
Yeah.
That is when this all of our students are coming into us. They're coming into us at different levels. And we have an opportunity in kindergarten, if we have them for the full day, to work with them to ensure that they have a great foundation for the rest of their career in Duxbury. And so we believe in it so strongly because it is connected to everything that happens from that point on.
I don't think there's anybody that's questioning the value of the full day. What we're questioning is who's going to pay for it. And I think Mark's question was, if you had $450,000 and you parents still funded the full day kindergarten, what would you replace with the 450 instead of the full day kindergarten? In other words, would we gain a better education system because we still have full day kindergarten, but would we gain a better education by using that 450 someplace else.
Yeah, I think that we would
It's
absolutely,
like, we're still providing the kindergarten
Yeah.
service.
Right.
So everything you just highlighted still exists.
Yeah.
And I know this has been a debate in town ever since you've been here and everybody wants it. I don't think the budget situation this year is probably any different than it was last year, and it's not gonna be any different next year either.
Right.
So, but what I've heard consistently, so while we're providing the kindergarten service that is there for the children, the question of who's paying for it, we're losing some of the services in the rest of the education system because of the budget cuts that we've had. So when we're adding money back, when you're asking for $800,000 in the override budget, half of that is for kindergarten. Where else could that be used to bring back the services that we're hearing from everybody that we've lost?
and so I think that was our budget recommendation last year with the first override. At that time, we were recommending that we be able to have a contract negotiation with the teachers where we would have been able to understand the funding that was available instead of having a conversation about potential funding that may or may not be available that will result in cuts to our staffing. That didn't come to fruition. We also lost multiple administrators, and I would say that has been a detriment to the support the teachers are receiving and to our educational program for the students. So we didn't want to reduce the number of administrators that we did last year. We would like to still have a elementary curriculum supervisor at each of our elementary schools, and we would advocate for our content areas to be represented so that we had a math specialist at the high school as well as a science person, English and social studies and history, so that they were represented. So all of the cuts that were the result of the override not passing last year were not our recommended reductions. And with that said, we had eliminated 5.8 positions last year in our real needs budget, not in our real needs, in our budget, even if the override had passed last year, we were still eliminating 5.8 positions last year. So we always try to consolidate and have efficiencies wherever possible. And so I think that our entire budget last year that we had requested would be what we would be missing out on with what position we're in right now, where we're asking for a fraction of what we had in place last year, this year.
Just to jump in really quickly, and I know Jen has a question, but I can't speak for the exact amount of what the administrative positions would cost if we replace them. It could be 450, it could be a little more, it could be a little less, but to me, if we had that $450,000, what would we replace to sort of replenish the services that we should, in my opinion, would be that administrative leadership. Because if you think about it, well, I can remember last month or 2 months ago, we got a presentation from our curriculum supervisors. And one of the things that our STEM curriculum supervisor said that really struck me, he was talking about our math program and he said, I'm new to math. So we lost a lot of administrative leadership that were intimately familiar with the subject matter that they were responsible for in terms of observing teachers, evaluating teachers, providing coaching with specific strategies to do with math. At the elementary level, for example, we have new curriculum that we're rolling out. We had curriculum leadership at both of those elementary schools. Now we have one curriculum supervisor shuttling between the two. And when that person's, day is diluted, she can't do, the work that she had been doing, that then sort of trickles down to the principals. Now the principals have a larger caseload of teachers that they have to observe and they have to evaluate. So those services, I think, to me anyway, I voted for the 4.83 with some reservation because I really do feel like our leadership and that capacity has been diluted. Our administrative staff has taken a lot of arrows because I think it's been thought of in the abstract. But at the beginning of this year, without a director of technology and instructional technology, I think we had Schoology go down in the first day, for the first week. So all of a sudden classes are just sort of, just frozen because people can't get on the computers and we don't have someone who's capable of going in and addressing it and fixing it. So it's kind of, to me, it's like an impossible choice. But, if I had that $500,000, my own opinion would be, we really have to, make sure that we're replacing the capacity to be able to, help our teachers, teach and instruct. I think we have a big loss in that area.
Jen, you had your hand up? Did you
Oh,
still
yeah.
have your hand?
I'll make a quick comment. Sorry, I'm not there in person. I'm in DC, but I was just going to say that I think a number of the questions tonight have kind of centered around us articulating trade-offs more, right? And being clear about why certain decisions are made and then like what we're optimizing for versus what we're explicitly saying, what we're not going to do. And I think that will be an important part of a bunch of us are meeting on Friday in terms of for a workshop to think about communications around this. And I think that will be a critical part of making it really clear. So thanks for the questions. And it's highlighting for me that those are areas that we need to kind of be proactive about anticipating those questions and having really simple answers at the ready. So.
Okay.
Betsy.
Yep, friend.
Okay.
I'm
Sorry.
just. Because I wasn't here last week or the last time. Have we approved A, or aren't we gonna do?
This is the only thing we have
We
left.
haven't voted.
No, I know, but
Yes, we have.
what we're gonna vote on tonight is their total budget of 46.4.
No, just the differential between it's $1.8 million something, right?
We never voted A.
Well,
We never voted A. We have A and B. They have one, we have two,
we voted A.
not for schools.
Yeah, we did.
I think you had
The 3%, because the select board guaranteed the 3%.
Oh, that's right, we did come back.
So it was already baked in.
Essentially, the other way to think about it is that the town manager has to present a balanced budget and the finance committee has supported that balanced budget.
Right, so we did do A. All we have on the table tonight is the differential between A and B for the school budget, which would then complete the budget 5 days.
So that 812,
Correct,
946.
correct.
Thank you.
Right,
I
I'm
think
sorry, Ashley?
I think it comes up often, but I don't know that it's been said tonight. Isn't it true that, so we vote the 800,000 roughly, the school committee still has discretion on how that's spent? Even if we said, like, we're supporting free kindergarten and all these line items,
We don't get a vote.
we don't actually, right? So I think it's very valid to share our opinions and very healthy discussion, but none
No,
of
we
this
don't get
locks in whether kindergarten's in or out, whether the
That's correct.
curriculum heads get swapped. Is that also, that's not locked in after, is it after town, when, is it ever locked in? Can you guys change that at any point in time? Like we vote, the town gives you a lump sum.
We
And
could
then,
change it on.
We could change it.
okay. I just want that
And
said
if
out loud,
five
that like,
feet-
Okay, I didn't. so
yeah,
thank you.
yeah.
But to that point, I think that
We go
the
back and
school
change.
committee and the school administration has been clear on their
Yeah.
priorities of the services that they want to provide to the community.
Totally agree.
So I wouldn't imagine that there would be a major pivots from what the conversation has during the year. So they have the latitude. Unlike the town, the school department has the latitude throughout the course of the year to move money among line items.
Yeah, great.
With respect to the town, we only have the last 2 months of the fiscal year to make those movements to address budgetary issues. So that when I bring end of year transfers before the finance committee, they have to be approved here and approved at the select board. School department has more latitude during the year. But I think they've, not only have they put together a 125-page budget book articulating their priorities, their goals, their objectives. They've had numerous conversations and presentations. I don't anticipate that they would pivot much from the strategies that they've discussed with the community.
Last quick question on the kindergarten, 450,000. Now you open up to free full day kindergarten. Do you envision enrollment going up 30%? Is that factored into the 450? Like, what does the 450 actually get you?
That would, what does it get? I don't,
So if
I don't
it's now free tomorrow, are you gonna have enrollment go up 20%? You need to hire 2-3 more teachers?
I don't believe so. I think that we have flexibility in the numbers. For example, if we have 10 classes per grade level, we would be able to withstand an increase in enrollment if we have classes right now that have 220 students in them, and we still have 10 classes per grade level. And so we do keep in touch with the preschools and the Berks and Duxbury to be able to know if there's like an age group of students that are coming in that are a larger group. And we don't have any indication right now that the incoming class is larger than expected. And I don't think that we would suddenly have families opting out of private school. So we would be able to manage a few here and like a few on either end, but I don't think we would be getting a giant bubble of kids that all of a sudden would require us to switch a class. But we also have the flexibility if we had lower enrollment in one grade and higher in another, that we can move a teacher to a different grade if we needed to.
Well, and to be clear, just for further clarity, how many kids are in half day right now?
I cannot say exactly. I'm
Less
sure
than
I'll get a
five.
text.
Less
Is
than
that
five.
in
Or is that
the-
less
three or-
you're saying?
three or
They
four?
must be able to- All the families are opting for full day at this point, and
Yeah.
they're finding a way to pay for it. Whether that means they're not doing other things, fine. But I don't think that, I guess, I'm curious if Mark's question is, are there people who aren't doing it and then suddenly we remove tuition and there's an influx of families who suddenly opt into full day kindergarten? Everyone is opting into full day kindergarten as it is, aside from somewhere between 1 and 5 families every year. So it's not a.
So Betsy, I don't think we're gonna learn anymore.
I just have one quick question and then Fred,
He's
you
raised
go
his hand
first.
all night.
Yeah, just waiting my turn. I think it's very interesting that this year, in my experience on the finance committee, this time and in prior years, that we've dug so deeply into the school budget, and it's been an eye-opening experience, to say the least. The offset versus revenue alone is enough to make one scratch their head, but I think it was suggested by the school committee or one of you that there's an opportunity, perhaps next year, for someone to come from either a school committee association or the state to go over the whole financial planning that the schools are required by law to do, which is so much different than what the town is obligated to do. That I think would be very, very helpful if we go down that path and provide the committee with a chance and anybody else that would like to participate. So we get smarter at this. Having said that, I attended the meeting when the superintendent prepared her, presented her budget, preliminary budget to the school committee, and it's virtually unchanged. And the thing that struck me the most was at the time, $1,354,000 was required to just keep the system where it is. No adds, no subtract, just the cost that are built into the system in terms of steps and salary increases and utility costs, et cetera, pretty much ate up the 3% that the town manager was able to set aside in his budget planning with a balanced budget to give to the schools. So I don't think there's any question in my mind that they desperately need this additional funding. The issue of full day kindergarten, it's unfortunately that it is a cute little $450,000 number that people can simply go and say, well, if we get rid of that, we'd be able to save money. We wouldn't have to raise taxes as much. We could hire some more people on the other side. And the people that are taking advantage of that program are kind of voiceless at these meetings. I don't hear from them very often. And I guess maybe they're afraid they'll raise their hands. I don't know. But I agree with Chuck's position that this is long overdue, that this is part of the educational process. It should have been included years ago. And it wasn't not just this entire superintendent's career, but I think the last 3 superintendents, we've been talking about this. It is something that I think we need to confront now, and I do fully support it. In addition to that, the staffing issue that has been circulating sometimes on the internet and sometimes in my head, I think as close as I can get to the numbers, and there was a chart within the financial statements for FY24 for the town that indicated personnel increases by department. And the numbers are, I don't know where the accounting firm sourced all their numbers, but in the 10-year period that the chart covered, the school population of instruction went up by about 50 heads over 10 years. Now, population has shrunk by roughly 590 over that same time period. So if in fact we have more teachers and fewer students, I think it's addressing one of the issues that I've heard from the school committee over the years is class size and the ratio of students to teachers. So if this personnel issue of having more heads than we had before for the size of the population is helping in that number, getting our class size down and getting the ratio of teachers to pupils in a more comfortable level, I can support it. I think that makes sense. I think that the presentation that is before us is a reasonable one. The idea of not asking us to go back and restore whatever number of positions that was lost last year, but instead asking for 4.4 is the superintendent and her staff and the school committee putting their heads together and saying, this is what we think we can do to continue to deliver good educational services to the community. And I don't think it's necessary to second guess them that much about it, because there isn't a lot of wiggle room in what they're asking for. Considering that right now, if they open the door on day one, it's $1.3 million more expensive than it was last year. So enough of that. And I've been prepared to vote this budget if the rest of the group is as well.
Yeah, go. I have a mutiny. Okay, that's fine. Can I have a motion?
I'd be happy to make a motion that we act on this.
Right.
Yep.
Right, but we got the number?
We need a number.
812, what is it?
812,946.
What is it again, Sam?
12946.
What he said? And
12946.
Yep.
you ready?
You moved it, I'll second it.
12,000.
Okay, great. Great.
Okay, so move to approve.
Roll call.
We have to do a roll call.
Chuck,
I think
I'm making the motion.
I second it.
Fred made the motion and.
No, Al made the motion, I seconded it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so we got the number, all right, good.
And Linda's got it? Okay, cool.
Got it, okay.
Chuck,
Chuck, aye.
okay,
All
JR,
right.
And
Fred, Mark,
Mark, aye.
Now, hi.
Ashley, I.
Betsy, I, Kathleen, I. There you go.
Done.
Well,
Thank you.
there you go. Beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you. And I have to say that, Danielle, you've been wonderful. You've answered every question, some of them lame, some of them incomprehensible, some of them brilliant. We really appreciate the time and the grace that you have shown.
Thank you. Thank you for this talk.
Yeah,
And we would be glad to schedule a workshop, maybe in.
I'd rather stab myself.
Exactly. There's a really great lady today that budget expert.
I had that thing that goes, why did you have the athletics involving funding down here?
Based on.
That'd be great.
Are they going to?
I did not, because I just got the one. I did. Does anybody, we have to talk about the audit thing, which is wicked fun. Let's do that.
No, I very so good.
Well,
Like, I think I have the town expertise on the different buckets too. Like, so one,
it goes into free cash.
and that's it.
Yeah, so what the money left over at the end of the current year would go to and return. So you're just.
To you guys, yeah.
Well, to everybody, and then it's just, yeah, I didn't.
But ours is in.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
I know.
All right.
I need to get rid of this.
Yeah. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Okay, guys, A quick update on the audit committee. I circulated that to the crowd. Anybody have any questions on that? Or report, friends? My emails, I think, to everybody. Or maybe I'll just. I mean, bad enough. So,
If anybody had any questions, we'd be glad to answer.
on the audit committee.
No, we're not done.
No.
Congrats.
Just to summarize it quickly, Vinnie Walsh, who's the designee from the fiscal advisory committee, is the chair of the committee, and Al and I, and we met with Mary on numerous occasions and with the CPA firm. We've reviewed both the annual audit, the state audit on the schools, and the supplemental audit that covers any kind of federal funds we receive. All of them are certified and without any kind of negative comments, like in a management letter.
Yeah, no
management letter, which is a good sign.
Well, that is good.
We met independently with the CPA firm, and just in case they had something they wanted to say to the committee, in the absence of Mary and her staff. And they were very complimentary about the way they were treated, how they were welcomed, anything they needed, they got, any questions they had were answered. And they enjoyed working with the staff. So it was, I think, all aces.
Rainey, that's perfect. Rainey, do you have anything that you want to add to the end of this?
I think I just verified it with Mary. I wanted to make sure that you had already voted the 5A school number, as she said you had.
See, I was confused about that too, Ray, because it wasn't in the December 9 minutes. 'Cause
It's not in the minutes?
We voted it later.
I was literally just gonna say, can we pull out the minutes?
It's not in there because we didn't vote it that day. We voted it later. That's why in my head, we hadn't voted it.
No,
It was a subsequent meeting.
okay, so
Okay.
hang on.
We're anticipating voting that one line at the select board meeting that we had.
And we didn't vote it.
Do you mind voting it just in case?
Well, Aaron is fair. What do you say?
Yep, go for it.
Vote it.
Aaron is fair. For the just in cases that we did not vote, the
Yes.
Article A for education. Could I have a motion, please, to
All right, you ready? I've got it in front of me. Line 300. Budget 300, Department 300, lines 39. Schools, it's one number, $1,329,948.
No, that's the increase.
That's what you wanted, isn't it?
No, the full budget. The full
You
budget.
want to go up to this?
go to the bottom?
No,
Two
we're
million.
back to A. It's
I have a total number.
Yeah, right in the middle of it.
45,661,555.
yes.
That's it.
That one.
That's it.
Second.
All right, that's the number that we're looking at. All those in favor? Chuck?
Chuck, aye.
Yeah,
Brenda, aye.
Mark, aye.
Now, I.
Ashley, I.
Betsy, aye.
Kathleen,
Aye, okay.
So let me just verify that, if I may. That's $45,661,555.
I'm looking at the budget sheet from 12/15.
Yeah.
That you all gave us, and whatever is right there below line 40. And the total for, I think that's it. Is that it?
Yeah, Fred,
Yeah.
Fred said yes.
no, that's right.
That's it, 45,661,555. Right.
Okay, and then with that, just checking one more thing. With that, you also did you just did the 5B, which was 812,946, correct?
Yep.
Mary, that wasn't split anyway, right? That's just a single number.
I have the split. I just haven't given it to you yet.
That's fine. I'll highlight it. But with that, then we have total alignment once again. Congratulations, folks. Thank you.
All right, so we are gonna not meet on Thursday. We're hopeful that you have the warrant done by the end of the week, and that we'll pick it up on Tuesday, next Tuesday, all right?
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
All right.
To that point, wait, I'm sorry, one last thing.
Yeah.
So to that point, just in case, I don't, Linda, for the agenda for Tuesday, the item that you have, called review, ATM warrant articles, can you modify that to say ATM and STM?
I emailed her that.
Okay, I just want to make sure we are not putting a
Because
box
we
around
can
ourselves.
start with the special, if you've got that, those numbers.
Yeah, I don't know if he's gonna have that by Friday, but well, let's keep it open.
Hey, hope springs eternal.
Exactly.
Move to adjourn. All right.
So I am not here next week.
I hope you're going someplace where you need like baby oil
I
and.
think I'm done there. Yeah.
Suntan lotion. That's.
All right, so I have a motion to adjourn. Favor, Chuck?
All right.
Right, aye, okay. Aye, caramba. Thank you. Time out.